Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Purple Insider presented by FanDuel. Matthew Collar here, and from CBS Sports, the Pushing the Pile podcast these days, Mike Renner returns to the show, and here's why Mike is on the show. Because we need an independent arbiter here. Like, all of us are watching JJ McCarthy. We've seen a lot of McCarthy. The fans want to watch through a certain lens where it focuses on the good. Maybe other folks focus a little more on the bad. So you, to me, I'm going to say this with no offense to anybody else I know, Mike, I think that you are the best tape watcher I know. If I needed one person, and the expert guys, our friends Cody Alexander, Bobby Peters, those guys are great at this too, at their areas of the football, but of taking tape and explaining it to me, I think that you are as good as it gets. So you watch the JJ McCarthy tape. How you feeling?
So I think with any, just to couch this first, with a young quarterback and any young player, you kind of have to have the baseline of what they were. And then what you want to see is either strengths getting better, weaknesses improving. You want to see growth in some way, shape, or form. And so after I watched McCarthy, actually the other day, I went back and read his scouting report from college. And I think the most worrisome thing for me was the cons of the scouting report basically read like his cons right now. It's one speed thrower. And I think one of the most concerning things watching his tape is just how much effort he's really putting into throws. If you watch the high-end guys, I can't remember seeing an NFL quarterback recoil after a throw like he's a closer in baseball, right? Like that snap where your hand comes back on you. That's just not the most efficient way to throw a football accurately. Like, if you're adding that at the end, you're doing a little too much. And so that part of his game, you're just seeing a lot of lasers, and a lot of those lasers are not where they need to be at this point. I think he has an issue with overstriding. He did in college at Michigan. He still does now on tape. And I think he had an issue at Michigan not an issue, but he loved going to his first read. He would force his first read. If he thought he had a good matchup, he was going to it almost regardless. And I think that's been also one of the biggest issues, and especially throwing to Justin Jefferson, is he's just forcing balls to Justin Jefferson that he has no business throwing. So those things were big cons on tape at Michigan, and it's 4 games in, right? It's still a very small sample size. He does need to play more football. This could be a very different conversation 4 weeks from now. But through 4 games, the cons that you hoped a year and a half, or a year and a half on the bench, or just like not on the bench, but like a year and a half sitting and working and doing whatever you could, being injured, that they would be improved upon, they haven't been at this point.
Yeah, the issue, I think, is that the team maybe underestimated just how much he would need to do to improve as a thrower, because I think the mental part of it, I think he understands the offense and the goals of each play. And I think outside of this week with a bunch of false starts, he's done a good job overall with operation. False starts, who knows exactly what happened there. But in terms of like getting the play, understanding the play, and what I see is, okay, I've seen a lot of this stuff before from, Darnold and Kirk in the past, and I kind of have a sense for, all right, well, this is where it's supposed to go. And I totally agree with you that he wants it to go the way that the play is designed, when sometimes you just have to go, all right, well, I'm going to have to take an L on that. The other thing is that I see from him too is trying to force the throws on the move as opposed to just always taking off and getting the first down. And we saw this on the Malachi Starks interception where there's open space in front of him, but it's, I'm going to try to make a play. And there were a few times against the Lions where I thought the same thing. I'm going to try to make a play. Early in the game against the Lions, he rolls out. You can scramble out of bounds for a 3-yard gain, or you can hang in, throw it down the sideline and get demolished by some Lions linebacker. And it's like, JJ, you can't be doing that, because that's what's going to get you killed in the NFL. So I think there's a lot of these things, but as an actual pure thrower, all of those reps that could have been taken behind Sam Darnold were entirely washed out, and trying to rehab yourself back to 100% to get cleared to play in OTAs, you're not really developing at that point. You're just learning how to actually run an offense. And I think a lot of that is showing up now.
Yes, I agree with all those points. It's funny. The last con I had on his profile just says doesn't want to give up on plays.
Mhm.
That was he to the bitter end. He will, and that's kind of seen with Jackson Dart. He's going to take too many hits. He's taking too many hits for who he is. He's a little undersized kind of quarterback, just in terms of like frame. He needs to protect himself better. He needs to learn how to give up on plays when maybe 1 out of 5 you'll salvage, but those other 4 could be the difference between you playing the rest of the game or you being on the sideline. But it's 4 starts, and I think he's almost too fast. He's moving through the offense too fast at times, whether it's his ball handling, his footwork. He needs to just breathe. Like watching him, I'm just like, just the best at the position. They look like they're not ever in a hurry. With JJ, it's like everything feels like it's in a hurry, and that's just something that comes with experience that will get better. And I'm just very curious when that does get better, when he does have this sort of just zen to him in the pocket. What will his game look like then? It's going to be hard to evaluate until that happens. And if it doesn't obviously ever happen, well, then you're just screwed. But I think it's just going to be really tough to evaluate his game until it feels like it's slowing down for him.
So there's a play toward the end of the game. I think it's on the last drive where they've got a minute and a half left to go. They're down by 8. They've got a chance to drive the field. And one of his first throws, Jefferson is breaking out toward the sideline. It's cover 2, and he throws it faster than Shohei Ohtani, and it just flies, off of Jefferson's
Yeah.
hands. But the way that the end zone tape is, you can actually see Kevin O'Connell on the sideline going, slow down, calm down. And I think that there's a part of this with JJ McCarthy where he wants so badly to make it happen. And his first introduction to the NFL was him having a fourth quarter comeback and the crazy locker room and everybody's going nuts. He wins NFC Offensive Player of the Week or whatever, which, you can make fun of that if you want, but still you're getting the award for that in this great kind of game. And I think that in every moment, he's trying to push that, which is why I thought in both Detroit and with Baltimore, the opening script, he looked so calm and so prepared and so good to go. It was sort of as the game went on, even with Detroit, where it was getting more antsy. It was trying to force things. It was trying to put it all on his shoulders. And no matter how many times you tell him, you have TJ Hawkinson underneath wide open, please just check the ball down to TJ Hawkinson and take 8 yards and then go on to the next play. I think it's sort of built into him a little bit. My friend Drew McGarry texted me, does JJ have a little too much dog in him? And I think that, there is that kind of makes sense a little bit, that when everyone has put so much pressure on him, hey, you got this great team. Hey, you're supposed to be competing right away. You're supposed to be the guy that someone can have a natural, I'm going to push too hard for this.
It's funny because when you're describing that, like that was exactly my personality playing sports growing. Like I didn't obviously play football, but basketball, I was, all right at basketball, and I would have to calm myself down before the games. Like people were like hyping themselves up, getting up. Like I had to chill before the games, or else I would be too hyped. And then if like I was playing well, or we were from behind, and it was like third, fourth quarter, I would be doing too much. I would have to be told like, hey, let the game come to you instead of really trying to force things. That was my personality. And so I get that mental, just wanting to be the guy so badly that he's in. And really the best I ever played was when I would have like a terrible first half. And so I would be like, that would get me, if I had a really bad first half, chances are my second half would be awesome. Like one game I scored 20 points in 2 minutes just because the first half I missed, like I went like 0 for 6. And I came in halftime, and that's when like I got down, and I didn't have to do too much then. I wasn't trying to really be the guy after that. And so that's kind of psychologically, I think, where he needs to get to is he doesn't have to be everything for this offense. They have enough everywhere else that he just needs to facilitate. And I think that's where his career is going to take off, is mentally when he gets there.
Now, when it comes to the good stuff for him, I think there is a lot of boxes that have been checked by McCarthy, and one is In terms of arm strength, now arm talent is different, but arm strength, that ball is cooking. In fact, it's cooking way too fast. It's Mach 23 or whatever, but that is there in terms of if you want him to fit a ball into a window, he can absolutely do it. When he does throw a touch pass, actually his throwing technique looks a lot better when he's trying to take velocity off. Like at the end of the Lions game, or there's a couple throws in this game, one nailer for a touchdown where
Yeah,
he
went
just,
around.
yep, delivers it to a spot and then he goes out to get it. That's one of his best throws. And you look at he almost is like in slow motion a little bit. And hey, that ball actually comes out right. The mobility, the athleticism, I think is really something that could be a threat for the Vikings, for him, even if they want to design runs and things like that. So he's checked a lot of boxes of the physical tools and that sort of thing. And I think that overall, at least in front of us, he's handled the roller coaster of this because we can really see guys melt with the criticism and everything that you take. And 22-year-olds, you can't just tell them, hey, man, just like log off. Just don't look at MySpace. Like, that's just not where we're at as a society at this moment. So I think that the things that you would be excited about have been there. And everything for me always keeps coming back to needs to play football. You know what he needs? And this is maybe I'm old, maybe you're old if you agree with this. I feel like he needs full preseason games like we used to see from guys, back in the day. I feel like he needs two a days. I feel like he needs just more and more and more reps of doing this, which I don't think you can change how you throw in the middle of a season. I think that's going to have to go to his own offseason and really a deep commitment to getting this down.
Yeah, or just go out and get really drunk the night before the game. I think couldn't hurt him. You just show up. It's like that best round when you're hungover in golf. That's the JJ needs on the football field. But there are positives though. I mean, he is tough as nails. Like half of those games, he had Justin Skol blocking for him at left tackle, right? Like that could break anyone. That can make anyone look bad. So there are things that are very good building blocks for him. When you have his arm talent, when you have his mentality, and when you have his toughness down in, down out, you can build upon those things. We just got to start seeing it. It's just we're a year and a half in, haven't seen it. If we don't start seeing it soon, then we can start getting it.
Well, you're taking me exactly where I wanted to go next, which is just, is this if it's not there by this year, is it into next year? Because this is not really a team that is set up to say, hey, why don't, like with Tennessee and Cam Ward? Yeah, it's been horrific with Cam Ward, but I don't know. What am I supposed to do with that? Right? Like that, give that 2 years. Caleb Williams. I mean, all of us, I may be slightly guilty of this, like trying to call it with Caleb Williams in that first year. Probably need 3 years before we really know on Caleb Williams. But this one doesn't feel like they have time to have 3 years to really know on JJ McCarthy.
It feels like if I were to be, put myself in Quessie's shoes and what I would do this offseason, I would get that kind of backup that'll push the starter. You get like a Mac Jones in there. You get someone who's started some games who can kind of just, I like what they did with Daniel Jones a little bit. Get a guy like that who has proven that he can play at the NFL level, maybe not play great, but give you a floor in that offense. That's what I would do, is bring someone like that in next offseason. And just to say, like, hey, this guy's here. Maybe we paid him $12, $15 million to be here, not an insubstantial amount of money. And it's like, JJ, it's your team, but just know that this is an insurance plan that we are happy to go to if things don't work out.
So, from a schematic perspective, last thing I want to ask you about this, and then you have been known to watch Green Bay Packers games, so I need some takes on that, and Caleb Williams too, as the Vikings get ready to play the Bears. But from a schematic standpoint, what do you see? Because this has been a hard thing for me to work through. We know that O'Connell's offense is aggressive. We know that it's a pass-first offense. This is something McCarthy was working on all offseason and seemed to be getting during training camp. But I also think that there can be a little bit too much on a young quarterback where you're asking him, and O'Connell saying in the press conference, well, he needs to get to the check down. Okay, I understand that, but if the check down is the fourth read and the Ravens are running a split field coverage and a simulated pressure, and like there's just a lot going on there, right? So how do we balance evaluating McCarthy in a bubble as himself versus, is there something that Kevin O'Connell can do to help him along in this process while he's still learning?
Yeah, it's a difficult balance to strike with any young quarterback, as we've seen with just all the young quarterbacks that have come into the league lately. And it's also probably difficult with JJ because he's not going to ever say put less. He's probably in there arguing like, no, I don't. I want the full offense. I want the full playbook, I suppose, whatever. He's going to say that. So you almost have to protect the guy from himself. So yeah, I do think that it is very much, it's downfield. It's asking him to attack the intermediate level a lot. And that's kind of that's the bar for quarterback. That's all the Mendoza line of quarterbacks, if you will, is if you could really consistently hit the intermediate area of the football field between the linebackers, between the safeties, that area, and do it well, you'll be a long-term NFL quarterback. And that offense asks you to do it a lot. So it is putting a lot on his plate. But also it's just like, if you go back and he just hits the throws that are there, is the other thing. It's just that offense then moves a lot better than it would have. So it's kind of a hard balance because I'm not sure it's too much. Obviously, you worry about the hits he's taking. That's probably the biggest thing. But he's made a lot of correct reads and just missed. It is probably where I'm at. It's like the offense is functioning well. He's just missing a lot of the times when he should be in.
That's exactly where I stand after watching the tape back for especially the Ravens game. It's like, that's not a bad decision. Where you threw the ball, where you chose to go with the football was the right place to go. You just did not get it to that place. Or what happens, I think, a lot is you got it to that place. And this game is so insane. Milliseconds late. So there's a batted ball where Jordan Addison is clearing the linebacker and he's going to be there for a touchdown. If that ball just comes out and you've got to throw it because the NFL's the NFL as he's basically at the linebacker, then you have to throw it out in front of him. Instead, he hitches, then goes to throw it. He's already sort of shown where he's going with the football. They get their hands up, they knock it down. It's probably going to get knocked down anyway because the defenders are seeing it. But this is the micro stuff that you have to play to learn. And when you're talking about this offense attacks between 10 and 20 yards all the time, all day long, it's fantastic at it. And where was JJ McCarthy best passing in college? It was in the intermediate area of the field. So they've designed it to work with him. And that's why when I hear over and over, KOC's doing it wrong, it needs more short passing. His short passing is really not his strength. Like the hey, take the snap, get rid of it, super quick. That's just not who he is. So it always and forever, if it's not working, then everyone's doing everything wrong. But unfortunately, it seems the simplest answer. But that's why you're here, is to confirm things that I thought. I want to ask you about Caleb Williams. I have to say, I'm very impressed with Ben Johnson. Very, very impressed with Ben Johnson because under center, Caleb Williams is doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm sure that was not an easy conversation with him, a shotgun quarterback who loves to be Mahomes out there. It's like, guess what, brother? You're going to have to be some Jared Goff in this world if you're going to make it work. They've built off the run extremely well. He has not taken sacks the way he did. I still see the passing, though, for Caleb as being here or there from a week-to-week basis. But how much better is Caleb Williams as he gets set to face the Vikings?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that there is a lot left on the table week in and week out, and yet it's still a good offense. And it's, I think, like the scary thing when you're the rest of the NFC North is that he can improve, and he is struggling with his accuracy. He does miss probably too many throws, but where he has improved and where Ben Johnson's kind of changed up his offenses, the 70 completion percentage thing that he floated out preseason, he threw that out the window, Ben Johnson. This offense in recent weeks, since early on in the season, since they've kind of evolved, has just changed into like, let's lean into Caleb Williams making big plays. Let's get some max pro in and let's get the ball down the football field. And even if we don't, Caleb has these big wide pockets where the sacks he was taking last year from shotgun drop back, when you're under center play action and have 7 guys in pass protection, one guy gets through, it's a lot easier to leak out the edge when you have all those guys back there. And so I think that's the biggest difference, is leaning into that part of Caleb's game. It's like, Cat, he's going to hold the ball a long time. He's done a lot of nice stuff in terms of hitting his back foot, attacking the middle of the football field that he didn't do last year. And there's some seeds on his tape up the seams. And that's probably the biggest evolution as a passer. But what I've seen is Ben Johnson just saying, hey, we're going to scheme it so that you have as much time as you need, and then you can even create more time if you need it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that there are improvements, and then there's the offense getting catered to him, and he's just so talented. I think that he is just a true freak of one-on-one with the defensive end, who's not, Micah Parsons. He's probably going to make that guy miss. And he has, like, consistently this year. Against the Bengals was like a comedy show. It was like Three Stooges, where they're just falling over themselves trying to get Caleb Williams. And he could do that to teams. So you give that element to his game, and then just a little improvement in the in structure over the middle of the football field that we've seen, and the Bears offense looks a lot scarier than it did early on this season.
No, it's I think a great adaptation from Ben Johnson. And also the other thing is too, that if you look around the league, it's so interesting to see what's old is new with a lot more big dudes. I had a conversation with one of the Vikings blocking tight ends the other day, and he was like, this is great. I can stay in the league for a few more years because people going to need
security.
Exactly. People going to need
high.
Big old Nick Vanette pushing bodies around. It's worked really well. And the way that they designed in the offseason, and I think, as analytic folk, you and I were probably skeptical about this strategy, but they went out and said, big run blocking offensive lineman. And let's, build off of that first. And even a mediocre DeAndre Swift can be good here. Then they bring in a young running back. He's having success. I think that a lot of that's Ben Johnson. A lot of that is by design to build that offensive line to run block. And then you're setting up favorable situations for Caleb Williams. This, to me, is what all the best teams in the NFL are doing right now. If we went back 5 years, everybody's in the shotgun, everybody's running everything downfield. It's a little bit different, but this is what's working. And I think this is the biggest challenge for the Vikings, is when they put big people on the field, can you stop the run? Can you stop Caleb from, having as much time to throw as he's going to need back there?
Yeah, everyone is trying to take defenses out of nickel. Everyone's trying to get the 3 linebackers back on the football field, just because that gives you the numbers in the passing game that you want. Even if you have 1 wide receiver on the football field, if you have 3 linebackers, if they're in base defense, in old school base defense, you're probably getting a one-on-one on the outside. And with modern wide receivers, my receiver ones, they win those. That's Seahawks offense to a T. Is all they're doing is just saying, put a bunch of guys on there, and we'll just have Jackson Smith-Njigba go one-on-one. Don't care if it's your best corner, he's winning. So, it's just sound offensive football. And like you said, that's the way the game's going. You're only going to see that go more, lean heavier into that, because of how tough it is to pass against 2 high defenses and nickel defenses, with how defenses are nowadays.
Your analysis of the Vikings has always been incredibly fair, despite your ownership of the Green Bay Packers. So as Packers owner, I'm seeing a lot of things that are pretty wild for people to say about Matt LaFleur, considering how good of a coach he's been. Everybody else in the NFC North is like, yes, lean into firing Matt LaFleur. That seems like a great idea for you. Look, if Bo Melton is playing corner then playing receiver, and Jordan Love throws a ball right through his soul and he can't catch it, that's pretty tough. Tucker Kraft, one of the best players in the league this year, is gone. That's pretty tough. Elgton Jenkins gets hurt. That's pretty tough. But is there something that the offense is doing that you think is causing the inconsistency of a Packers team that has looked really, really good offensively at times, and then against Cleveland, against Philadelphia, not just rough, but abominable at times?
I think it's their commitment to the running game, without comboing it with the play action game, that we're seeing, Caleb Williams be so successful in, Sam Darnold be so successful in, that if you are going to be, if you're going to be having a lot of 2 tight end, 3 tight end sets, and if you want to go heavy personnel, and the Packers actually aren't really leaning into that the way some others around the NFL are, but they are still running the football, top 10 highest rate in the NFL. And especially in like neutral game situations, they're running the ball even higher than that in terms of rate. You better play action and get explosives off of it. They're getting, their running game has been bad, but it's not been going backwards, is I think like the biggest thing. So they get 2 yards on first down and they stick to it. And so they're 3 quarters in, haven't scored a damn point on Monday Night Football. I was there. It was a tough slog to watch. And they're still just like not changing a thing is I think the biggest thing in their loss is that their defense is so good that they haven't had to adjust, because that Browns game, the Panthers game, and the Eagles game, they're right there in it the whole time, but they haven't scored. Their offense hasn't done anything, but especially, Panthers and Browns game, they were winning for most of those games. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that he's not scheming up the explosives to combo with what they're trying to do on the ground game. And I do think there is a world where he is fired. Now, it's going to have to come with like missing the playoffs entirely this year, probably going like 8-1 to do it, but they haven't looked that good, and I do get your point about Bo Melton dropping it, but Bo Melton was still their wide receiver 5, I think, in that game. Why is he on the field on 4th down?
Yeah.
It's a 4th down. It's a high leverage play. He shouldn't be out there on the football field if he was starting at corner for you week 1, right? So things like that, and it's happened on more than one occasion. And I think even the week prior against the Panthers, they had a 4th down where Savion Williams is out there at wide receiver. It's like, if it's a 4th down, I don't care if they're tired, get the best 3 out there. So there are quibbles with Matt LaFleur and how he's called games for sure. I would be very surprised if he's gone. There's also quibbles about what the front office did. Aaron Banks looks like shouldn't even be out there, and you made him one of the highest paid guards in the NFL this offseason.
Which at the very moment that happened, every single person was like, what? It's just, who? Like that much? What? When there were other guards that were veterans that ended up costing half of that. If he was exceptional, then yeah, guards are getting paid now, but he was a well below average player with San Francisco. Plus anybody San Francisco has, I think you have to be a little skeptical just in general of, them being able to cover up certain things. Yeah, with LaFleur, look, I think he is a very good coach, but I also think that there's a little bit of him that has succeeded with paring things down in very like Shanahan tree style of, just like quick stuff. And, then, okay, we're going to take our big shot at the right time. And I don't know that I see Jordan Love playing complete quarterback all the time. It feels like they were sort of able to rig it up a little bit for him, get the ball to Tucker Kraft real quick, get yards after catch, and then every so often, hey, roll out, throw 50 yards down the field. Let's see if we get a catch or a penalty. On a week-to-week basis, that's just not the same as having a quarterback attack the intermediate areas of the field time and time again, go through multiple reads, having lots of adjustments at the line of scrimmage. So can Jordan Love not do that? Or does he maybe have too much fear of asking Jordan Love to do that?
He's scheming like he's afraid of something. Now, is it the weapons? Is it Love? Is it the offensive line? It could be all 3 or a combination of all 3. But it also feels like he's scheming. He schemes after Aaron Rodgers, especially with Jordan Love, like he's responsible. Like the players are almost interchangeable, and that it's his scheme that has to win it. If I had any criticism, and again, I think he's been a great coach. I don't think he's top 5 coach in the NFL. I don't think he's a bottom half coach in the NFL. He's somewhere in that in between. But he does, if he runs into ruts, it's because it feels like he has to call the perfect play for the perfect moment, as opposed to just saying, let's trust that Jordan Love can operate an offense.
Let me sneak in one question that Vikings fans don't want, because we're like, a little ways into the show. Maybe they've only listened for 10 minutes. Is Sam Darnold going to keep doing this?
Unfortunately, I think so. And for everyone's sake here, because I think the Seahawks are the best team in the NFC with him doing this. But the one thing, if there is one thing, I mean, he is still very turnover prone, and we just saw that this past week. And no one's made him play left-handed. Their defense has been so good. They've been so effective with that play action game that no one's actually just been like, hey, drop back to pass on us. Kind of, you remember the Saints early on last season when they were just, the offense was insane. And all of a sudden when, the defense started taking a step back, when the offensive line got a little banged up and they started to play from behind, it was like, okay, this doesn't look anything close to what we saw before. No one's really had the Seahawks play from behind and just make them turn into what a drop back passing offense looked like, 8 years ago in the NFL. So I think that's the one thing where I'm like, we'll see when it has to happen, if that is, but it's really hard to argue with what he's done and what that offense looks like. It's just built to be consistent in today's NFL. It's so, I just love what Kubiak does. I think it's so sound principles. The principles of the offense are so sound that you're just going to have to play great team defense to consistently beat it.
All right, let me give you some Super Bowl odds, and you could tell me what. Actually, just yell when you like one, okay? When you like the Super Bowl odds, just yell stop, okay? So over on our friends at FanDuel, the Kansas City Chiefs are the favorite at plus 600. Then the Eagles at plus 650. The Rams at plus 750. The Lions at plus 800. Seahawks at plus 950. The Bills have dropped to plus 950. Colts.
I kind of like the Seahawks at 950.
Okay, so you're really buying Seattle then. Don't you this week? How great is this week? Because I'm on the opposite of this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really buying the Rams. I think Stafford is playing like not just a great quarterback, but like legendary quarterback right now. And McVay is the best coach there is.
Yeah, I just think the Seahawks defense is built to week in and week out just get the job. They're so there's no holes. There's nowhere to attack. Your best bet is to just target Tariq Woolen and hope you get PIs, missed tackles, that sort of thing. But like with the addition of Nick Manwari and since Devon Witherspoon's come back, they've just been terrifying to try to score on that defense.
Mike Renner, CBS Sports, Pushing the Pile podcast. You guys have JP Acosta now, which is cool. Really good addition to that podcast. So love what you're doing over at CBS Sports. Very, very happy for all of your success. And, we'll see how it goes next week in Lambeau. Vikings and Packers. We'll see if your ownership stake, you still want to have it after that, depending on how the rest of this season goes. But really, no, I really do appreciate you taking the time to look at the McCarthy tape, break it down for us here on the show. You are the best, my friend. So thanks for doing this.
Appreciate you, Matthew. Thank you for having me on.